as you see fit. For those of you who don't know me, I am Charlotte Lee. I'm an executive coach. I work for a company called LHH, which has nothing to do with me.
What happened?
It's the largest outplacement firm in the world. We have 300 offices in 60 countries. And what we do is help folks move to their next role in a variety of ways. Some of it's quite pedestrian, like resumes, and some of it's really critical, like positioning yourself and knowing what's different about you and how to differentiate yourself in a very crowded market. So one of the things, Cheryl and I were lucky enough to get to meet each other, and Richard as well, and they've done this great thing, which is to provide you with a forum after the construct of LHH goes away, to continue to share best practices, learn things about the market, stay in touch with other people, etc. And so what I offer to do every once in a while is come over and sort of see if there's any specific questions I can answer, tell you what the trends look like, what we see in the marketplace, what's going well, what's not going well, and what else you can do to boost your search and boost what it is you're doing for your career in general. Whether you're in or out, I'm also an executive coach, so people who are in roles, I coach them as well. I'm currently coaching 4 people. 2 are high potentials that would like to get promoted, that are not going to get promoted unless they do what I tell them to do. And the other 2 we're going to have fired. So it's not going well, and they are not coachable. There are people who are not coachable, who kind of want to do what they want to do and kind of go down that road, and that doesn't always work with the companies of today. They're very much looking for a very collaborative group of folks who wear lots of different hats, who do well with ambiguity. And when you don't do well with ambiguity and you have a poor communication style, you don't collaborate well, and you don't build consensus, that doesn't work well for you. And the companies now, they used to bring in coaches like us, and I would have 150 people to coach. I now have 4. And the reason I have 4 is they're not bringing coaches in anymore, they just fire them. Which is disappointing. They don't need to, right? So I did get brought in on these 4, and 2 I'm definitely going to feel good about, and the other 2, they want to do what they want to do, and at some point I have to report back that they want to do what they want to do, and they will do what they want to do someplace else. And that's their choice, and we all make a choice of how we're running our careers, and how we're running our searches, and how we want to work and how we don't want to work. And all I want to do is add value in some way this morning with you. So Cheryl's going to ask me some questions. I'm going to answer them, but I do hope you'll feel free to sort of raise your hand or ask any questions or give me some feedback, because I'm here for you. So I'm sort of done talking. I want to do what's helpful to you. Thanks, Cheryl.
Okay. Thank you, Charlotte, for giving us that broad spectrum of what she has done, and she's been my coach for the last 6 months, and many of you in here. So the first question is about thinking outside the box. There are many of us who are looking to possibly change fields, whether it's moving from one sector, financial services, to another, or from profit to nonprofit. And also, some job seekers actually want to change their position, so they might be changing their role altogether. So there are those 2 possibilities. And the third is, some people really want to leave their field. They're not exactly sure how to approach it. So the question often comes, and as we know, the market is so tough, but you don't have experience in this exact field or this role, how do you position yourself? So what would you recommend as
so
best
those are probably about 11 questions in there.
I'm sorry, Charlotte. We broke it into 3.
And I'm just not that bright. So I'm going to start from the back and work my way up. The first thing I would do, because I started my life as an investment banker, I spent 18 years as an investment banker, and I had enough, and I wanted to do something else, and I knew I could do something else. I couldn't quite figure out what it was. So I have had 4 distinct careers. I've been an investment banker, I ran my own consulting firm, I ran 5 nonprofits, and I've been coaching since 2007. And I will tell you there's only one way to do it, and that is to really figure out what motivates you. And the only thing that motivates me, it turns out, is people. What motivated me in the beginning was money. I had a husband who was getting a PhD and 2 small children, and I needed to pay the mortgage. So I thought, now where can I make the most money? And I thought, Wall Street. I went down to Wall Street and I got 3 jobs, and I stayed down there for 18 years. So I think at the end of the day, you have to figure out what motivates you. That's 1. 2, I would read a wonderful book that's called What Color is Your Parachute? And when you go through the flower exercise and a number of other exercises, it will pull out not only what motivates you, but what you're good at. Sometimes you love something and you're not actually all that good at it. And so we need to not only do what we love and love what we do, you got to be good at it. This is not a market that is going to take mediocrity. So me trying to run numbers again I would be fired in a moment. I can't run the numbers anymore. I don't balance my own checkbook. I'm out. So if somebody starts telling me, here you go, great job for you, run these Excel spreadsheets, I'm taken to the hills because it's something I did. I don't want to do it anymore. It turns out I'm actually not that good. I'm just not. So at the end of the day, it has to be something that motivates you. It has to be something that pays the bills. It has to be something that's available. I've been telling people, if you want to be an astronaut, don't bother. There's no NASA program. Well, there's now a NASA program, and NASA has taken 18,000, starting this year, 18,000 applications for 2 spots. So good luck with that. My suggestion is to think about what it is you like to do and want to do in terms of, honestly, mine was people, which is a darn too big thing to say. Then I went through my functions. I went through what color is my parachute. I thought about all the things I'm great at and all the roles that were in there that had something to do with people. And that had, for me, what is very important to me, an outcome. Some people don't need an outcome. Some people are happy to just be doing lots of wonderful, interesting projects. And if they don't get to implement them, but they get to strategize about them, and they get to work with smart, interesting people, they're okay with that. I'm not. I want an outcome. So you have to know what motivates you. You've got to read what color is your parachute. It has to be that there's a market out there. If there isn't a market for it, you need to be meeting with enough people to say, it's great you want to do that. We haven't got a market for that at the end of the day. And you have to be open to the feedback that people come back to you with, which is, I'm not sure that this is going to work. And you have to hear it. I have people who spend over a year banging away at something that clearly they're getting the feedback, this might not be the best fit, but they're absolutely headstrong about doing it. That's where I say, start your own thing. Everybody, I wanted to run a nonprofit, and everybody said, why would we hire you? Have you ever run a nonprofit before? We're not hiring you. Who are you? You're some banker who probably can't get another banking job. I went out and I started my own firm, and I started consulting in the not-for-profit space on strategy and coaching, and I continue to get work that way. Then I got the number 3 job, then I got the number 2 job, and then I was an executive director of a not-for-profit. I took lots of steps back to do what I wanted to do. I ran 5 of them. I thought I was going to kill myself. It was a little bit of a learning curve. It turns out I don't work well in the not-for-profit space because all I want to do is hug each other, and I don't want you to hug me. I want you to deliver more services, raise more money, and do it in a more efficient way. That's what I want you to do. That's not what they want to do. They want to, have a night. Are you having a nice day today, Cheryl? And I didn't fit. And you want to go to a place where you fit. You want to go to a place where they get you. You get them and they get you. And I didn't have any friends. And I realized I didn't have any friends because they didn't get me and I didn't really get them. But I was thinking it was a great thing to give back, and wouldn't they be lucky to have me? Well, it turns out that's not how they feel. They don't feel that they're lucky to have you. They think you're nuts and you should go back to the cave you came out of, which is what I went back to do. So I went back into corporate America, but in what I consider to be a really, really important job, which is helping people with their lives and helping people with their next step. So I combined a business background with what I thought was powerful outcomes. But it is a journey, and it is exhausting, and you'll get a lot of no's. I don't know if that answers my 11 questions, but it's what I got.
I think so.
Does anybody have any thoughts or questions around that I could do a little bit more of a deep dive? I've stunned them into silence.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Tell me your name.
Frank.
And Frank, where did you work?
Financial services, formerly JP Morgan.
And what did you do there?
I was a product and risk manager in Treasury and Security Services.
Okay.
So you mentioned before about taking a step back a
Yes.
little bit. Could you just talk a little bit more about that?
Sure.
Sometimes I'm applying for positions where I'm totally
So let me answer your question before you go on to another question, because I can't answer 17 questions. As you saw, I poorly executed on the last deliverable. So the question is around, suppose you come out of JP Morgan as an MD and you start getting tapped for stuff that's not MD level, it's some other role. So my answer is, I don't care. And you shouldn't either. You should go back to work. You should be valued. You should be paid fairly. You should be doing work that you can jump out of bed in the morning and not want to slit your own wrists. But I would go back to work. The longer you are out, the harder it is for you to get back in. And the competition for you, because you're in what we call a protected class, if you don't mind me saying, some of us are over 40. Some of us are close to 60. They're not looking for 60-year-olds last time I checked. So I'm going to have to be very careful about what I do next, because they're not looking for grandmas. So the older we get, and the more expensive we are, the fewer roles there are. The more flexible you can be to keep the lights on, the better off you are to get back in a seat that makes sense for you. Now, should you be flipping burgers? Would you like fries with that? No. Should you be in a financial institution that has a recognizable name that I've heard of in 36 years in the business? Yes. Do you need to be an MD at name a firm? Let's get over it. Let's all get over it. They're all going Bloomberg's way. No titles, no swim lane. Do what I tell you to do and get it done. And then I may pay you more money.
Excuse me.
It's flattening. It's flattening. It really is. And so I think we all got, look, analyst, associate, AVP, VP, director. I'm with you. I come out of that. And now I'm really delighted that I don't care. I will do what I want to do for whom I want, and I will be valued and I will be paid. That's what you should focus on. Those days are over, and I don't think they're coming back in my lifetime. They might come back. There's some other young people here, much younger than grandma up here, but it's not coming back in my lifetime. The genie's not going back in the bottle. This is a fundamental change and shift, and the water level has dropped, and it's not getting back to where it was in the 80s and 90s, which is where I grew up. Let's not live in the past. Let's stay in the moment of what we got, and this is what we got.
If people
Okay?
have questions, please stand up and speak loudly so that everybody, look how many people we have here.
Do we not normally have this many people?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad people showed up. I'm so glad.
You are a big
I would have been in an empty room by myself, yattering away, which I have done in the past. Hello, Scott, standing back there. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great.
Nice to see you.
Great to see you.
My name's Beth, and I'm an in-house corporate attorney. And kind of to piggyback on that question that you just did, I think the problem a lot of people end up having, and I'm having, is that I am willing to step down in pay and in role, but then I'm told that they don't want to hire me. Like if I want to be a contracts administrator and make half of what I was making, I'm willing to do that. But they don't even want to talk to me. So what do you suggest
I have two
in
thoughts.
those situations?
So their point is they have flight risk. What happens is you start that role, and 6 months down the road, somebody comes to you with something that is a little bit more interesting and pays closer to what you were making before, and you leave. And so they call that flight risk, and they don't want flight risk. And so what they want to know is that you will stay and grow with them. So I have 3 suggestions on that. One is, I'm not convinced, Beth, that I would, as your coach, let you take a job as a contract administrator at half your rate, unless you told me that you were eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and you had to, in which case I always say, go for it. I've been a waitress, but I don't want to do it again. I'm a good waitress, but I don't want to do it again. So I'm happy if that's the case. If it's not the case, the one thing we can say is, look, I've seen this role, and in addition to doing this contract administrator thing, there were 4 other things by talking to Joe, Steve, Kathy, and Mary that I've learned that I can work on too, which would be, and I was wondering if you would consider expanding the role to encompass some of those things I talked to Joe, Kathy, Mary, and Susie about, to sort of upgrade the role a little bit. We're not, I'm making up a number. It's a 20, I'm not making it 150, but I'm making it a 70. By expanding it with these 4 other capabilities I have that it sounded like you might need. Is that something you'd consider? That's 1. 2, I would say, I'd love to do this. I'm in the hunt for 2 or 3 other things. This is at the top of my radar because of your platform, not the specific role necessarily, but the platform. May I do this on a consulting basis? And I would give them a quote that is an hourly rate that when it changes and converts is at your day rate of the 4. That's 2. 3, When there is a role that is, so when I went out of investment banking into not-for-profit, you could imagine what the numbers looked like. I said, oh yeah, that's no problem. I come home, my husband's like, are you nuts? Who's buying your shoes at that rate? People who've been in my office can all laugh. Some of us have a shoe thing. But I would have taken, I got passed up, and don't take this the wrong way, because you have to take this from where it comes. I got passed up for an $80,000 job, which is somewhat below my pay grade. And I was flummoxed. They wouldn't hire me. I don't think I could have gotten hired for free at that point. Because at the end of the day, they saw me as a banker and they didn't believe me. I didn't do a good enough job of convincing people I was never going to go back to the street and that I was going to do a very good job for them without my Wall Street hat on. And they didn't believe me. My fault. So if you're switching industries, you can also use that. Hey, I was in JP Morgan. The numbers are na. This is Jeffries. I know Jeffries is not where JP Morgan is, and I'm okay with that. I'm not driven by money. I'm in a different phase in my life. I am not where I was in my 20s and 30s, and I'm really happy to be in the swim lane and would very much love to get this role. And you need to ask for it. If I had a nickel for every single time a person does not ask for it, I won't give it to you if you don't ask. You must ask for what you want. Otherwise, I don't think you'll advocate for your people because you don't need to advocate for yourself. I sure as hell wouldn't give you a team. You can't open your mouth for yourself. So you must advocate for yourself because then it shows me a leader. And that shows me someone who's ready to even take on other people. I might think about consenting departments and stick it all onto Beth. And it's not even in that job spec. They're not even thinking about it that way. They're running around like a bunch of crazy people trying to get their job done. Okay? So I hope that's helpful. Great. Next question. Sure.
Yeah.
Who wants to?
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't
Videoing. Or,
Okay, the next question is actually very close to what you've been talking about, which is compensation woes.
Yes.
So because a lot of us are older,
Yes.
and we won't say how old, but we know,
Right.
we often find, I know even for myself, we look at jobs that might be below our pay scale, and whether it's contracting or full-time. And the question is, as a job seeker, what would you recommend as best practices when asked for what did you last make, which is often the question. What
Yes.
do you say, and
So-
how do you balance that with, you know,
Sure.
as you
So,
talk about?
so it's difficult to balance this, but I will say what I coach folks to do is somebody calls and says, you know, hey, Kathy, we've got this role. What'd you make last year? And the answer to that is, hi, Phil. So glad you called me about a role you haven't described to me for a company you haven't told me about doing something that I don't know anything about, and we haven't met. Could you tell me a little bit about the role? That would be great. I don't want to waste your time if it doesn't make sense for either one of us. I know you're busy and you got the next 15 phone calls to make. Can you tell me about it? Well, it's a client relationship manager. This is what it does. Blah, 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 blah. And I say, and the range on that is somewhere around where? And he goes, well, it's somewhere between 20 and 60. And I say, great, I'm at the top of the range. I made 77 last year. That is the way that I would handle that. Feedback? Questions? Yes.
Okay.
Inside, take your hat off. I don't know that guy behind you, which is why I didn't say. It's the
all right.
same for all of us, Phil. It is as bright for me as it is for you. Welcome to the world of Charlotte Lee. Those of them who don't know me are just sitting in their seats going, holy crap, I'm glad she wasn't my coach. Yes, Phil?
Okay. I'm seeing an increasing number of ads that will ask someone to include what their salary wants are, and if they exclude it, they don't even want to consider you. So how does someone, anybody here, deal with that?
You can do two things. You can put, when I did an application last week, it wouldn't let me go to the next screen, so I put one, and then it went to the next screen. And I got a call in. I have an interview on Tuesday. So that's one thought. Two, for an interview for a job I'm not taking, because I got the perfect job. Unless I go back and I don't have it, then I'll go to this interview on Tuesday for sure with a different attitude. So that's one idea. Two is I think about the role. I think about really whether I want it or not. But I think about the role and I look at it and I do a little bit of homework and I figure out, okay, you know what? This is a 50 grand role. I'm making a number up. I'm always making a number up. This is a $50,000 role. I made $850 last year. Also making it up. I would probably think about that role, and I would probably put something close to what I thought the role was going for, because otherwise I'm not going to get called. And I want to get called. I'd rather get called, go for the practice, check it out, see what the story is, and potentially get it, and have to renegotiate the salary and say, I put that, but now that I see what this role encompasses, it's really a $75,000 role, not a $50,000 role. Something like that. I was unburdened by the facts when I applied for the role. Now that I've met everyone and I see everything to do and the platform I have to really cover, a little bit of a bait and switch, Phil. Okay? Feedback, thoughts? Yes, sir.
I guess,
One second. Can you wait for the microphone? Yep.
I guess most of us at times feel that we're at a disadvantage when it comes to the money, right? So how do we deal with that, right? With the sense that they have the upper hand on the compensation.
So this is in your head,
right?
And this is in your heart, and it's not the fact. You are the magic. You have what they need, you have what they want, or they wouldn't be calling you. And the more you sound victimized, the more they will take advantage of it. So I would stick to my guns and get what is appropriate. And if you don't ask, you won't get it. You're going to have to buck up on this. If they can get it for less, they will. And they'll give it to someone else, like me, instead of you. And why shouldn't it be you? Look, I've been out. It's why I do this job. I remember how it felt. Hide it. There's a lot you have to hide when you're out, and that's one of them. Otherwise, we sound desperate, and I don't want you to come across as desperate. I want you to come across as ready and hungry and looking for the right role and wanting to be compensated fairly, and that's what you should say over and over again. I'm looking to be compensated fairly. I'm not looking to be an outlier. I certainly wasn't overpaid, and no, I'm not going to be overpaid, but I want to be compensated fairly for this role with my level of expertise. And if you're telling me with my experience and my expertise, 72 is the number that I'm in, what would be the next step?
Hi there. I just have a quick question for you. I've been calling on a lot of recruiters.
I cannot hear you.
You can't hear me? Okay.
There we go.
I've been calling on a lot of recruiters to just introduce myself and talk about my background, and so I've been very successful with some of these retained firms. And then, of course, at the end they say, and so what is your comp? Right? So if you want to be flexible, and the numbers in my industry, I'm in investment management, are just so wide, regardless of your level. So I was just wondering how you handle that.
So your question is specifically related to recruiters. I'm not a recruiter. I don't work with recruiters much anymore. I have for the last 35 years, but they're pretty much a waste of space right now. They're getting disintermediated. They're really having a tough time. They're firing lots of folks. I get calls every day. It's not going well. And the reason it isn't going well is I can get my hands on all of you for nothing. And I've got a LinkedIn of 1,800 people, which I will open to them for nothing. So the very idea that they have to pay to get qualified people is unlikely, unless it's like a purple dinosaur or like someone who speaks 7 languages. I have a very funky job in Brazil that somebody called me about. If you want to move to a little place outside Sao Paulo and speak Portuguese and a number of other languages. So they're like funky roles, but the mainstream roles, they don't need the headhunters for anymore. So most of the people I coach, we don't spend any time with the headhunters really at all. And you cannot at all shift. Like if you are a duck, they only give you duck roles. Like you can't even look at slightly goose chicken roles. Like you're a duck, that's it. So the only thing I'm ever going to get ever again in my whole life, regardless of what I've done for the last 36 years, is coaching, because that's what I do now. So that's where the headhunters sit. They're very plug and play, square peg, square hole, and all they want is the facts, ma'am, and nothing else. What was your salary? What was your base? What was your bonus? What was your long-term comp? How many weeks vacation did you get? And they put it in a grid, and that is it. And they typically ask for 3 years worth of numbers. So there's no like, well, let's talk about the role. Like that whole description I just decided to talk to you about, forget it. Zero chance you're going to get anywhere with a recruiter on that. They're going to ask you, you're going to have to lay out the numbers. They're going to take those, they're going to put it in the formula, the roles that they're filling, and you're going to come out somewhere, slotted someplace. C'est la vie. There's nothing to do about them. There really is. They sit in this little, very finite world. Okay, next question. Do you have another
Okay,
question?
I didn't know if you had a question. No, if it's related to the compensation. Go ahead.
Well, I can definitely understand people being concerned about compensation, but I did ask and I didn't get anything on the salary, but I did get a signing bonus so that I would be closer to the number that I wanted, at least in year one. I have a follow-up question in that, unfortunately I got laid off.
That's the question about asking.
Yeah.
If you don't ask, you don't get. Just ask.
I've
The
also
most
asked
you
for
say is no.
titles over the year, which now are less important. I've asked to match an extra week of vacation that somebody had. Some stuff they're flexible on, like medical benefits. They're not really flexible. It is what it is, But you can ask, and you can even ask on the way out. On your separation agreement with some firms, they might be willing to negotiate a little bit. Adding an extra month of severance or health coverage or something to get you to, or outplacement, or to get you to retiree medical or something like along those, or to qualify for a pension, because they don't want a lawsuit for somebody, especially being in a protected class, that you let somebody go 30 days before they qualify for the pension. So to ask, I have a different question to ask, which I can wait, but I was just laid off yesterday so the second time now in 3 years. So I'm wondering what type of message and how I should position that, being, so I don't seem like the wounded animal.
Yes. So when I was a banker, we called it the wounded caribou at the back of the pack. And you know what happens to the wounded caribou at the back of the pack, right?
They leave them from that.
Right. So here's the thing, John. Two things. One is, so I've been on the street since for a long time, 36 years, and so I've seen a lot of cycles. This is not a cycle. This is a fundamental shift and change in our market. It's no cycle. So if you thought it was a cycle, it's not a cycle. This is a paradigm shift. I have seen more clients for the second, third, and fourth time since 2008 than all of my years coaching. So, batten down the hatches, because it is unlikely your next job you will retire from, unless you're planning a very early retirement. I'm going feet first. I want to work till I really can't work anymore. No, really, I want to work till I can't work anymore. Who's hanging out with me at home? No one. No husband, no kid, no one. I got no one to play with. I got no family home. I got no kids at home. I have no friends. They all work outside the home. I have one guy friend who is very wealthy who doesn't work, and I'm not flying to Palm Beach to be with him. Like, often. I do, but not often. So at the end of the day, what are we doing I have all this, and I want to give it. So, and I don't actually worry too much about getting paid what I'm worth, because I've decided I'm priceless. That's what my mommy told me. So I'm going with MasterCard.
There you go.
I love it.
Look, how are you going to put a number on what I do? I'm helping people. Half the time I'm saving lives. These people are about to jump out windows. So how do you put a price on that? You don't put a price on that. These are people that mean a lot to me. And at the end of the day, this isn't about money. This is about leaving the world a better place. And that's why we're here. That is why we're here. So you got to kind of figure out, how you feel about it, because you could project stuff and not realize you've been projecting, John. So we want to make sure we're not projecting a defeatist attitude. We want to make sure we come out of the box, even body language. I'm a body language expert, and I look around and I look at the way people dress. I look at the way people, wear their hair, their makeup, their clothing, the way they sit, the way they look can look very defeatist. So you want to make sure you're coming across first impressions are lasting impressions. It's the first 10 minutes I laid eyes on you. It's the first 10 steps you took. It's the first 10 words out of your mouth, your handshake, and your eye contact. They've made a judgment call on what you're about and whether they want to be in your aura. So you got to make the first impression be the best impression, because it's the lasting impression and you don't get a do-over. So please be careful that you're coming, that you look great, that you're dressed well, that everything is done as if you're going on an interview. Because at the end of the day, when you're networking people, you are going on an interview. Because if they like you and feel good about you, they're going to send you on to someone else. Oh, you should meet my buddy Richard. Oh, you should go meet my friend Cheryl. They're going to connect you to their network. And that's where the next job is. So one, make sure you're saying to yourself, once you step out of your home, game on. Game on. The minute you step out of your house. Don't think because you're not with anyone that there aren't cameras and that we're not all looking at you. There's a camera right behind Scott. We are all on camera all the time. I had a nickel for every time I went down to security and I stood behind the security thing and said to the guys, which you're not allowed to do. So why don't you show me some pictures of some grumpy pants? And I go up to our office and I hunt those people down and I take them aside and I say, you will never treat our security people that way again, or I will terminate your program and send the money back to Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Credit Suisse. We have every account in the world. I will not have it. You will not take out the way you feel on someone who can't do anything about it. That is really despicable behavior, and we won't have it. And that, by the way, is now your brand with me forever. It's how I will remember you, always. You can imagine how that goes.
I don't know if I'm like, but there's certain firms who reject that have asked the reception how you treated the receptionist, agreed to, and that's part of the interview cycle.
And you just don't know who that receptionist is. You just don't know who that person is. You don't know who anybody is. Somebody made the mistake of thinking Christopher was my secretary. Now, for those of you who know Christopher Williams, I'll have to kill myself if he leaves. Like, if you never see me again, it's because Chris quit. Like, I can't do what I do without him. And you mustn't cross him, and you mustn't be nasty to him, because then I'm coming for you, and I will end you right then and there. I will not have it. These are my people. You will not do that. I don't care what's going on. We've all got stuff going on. We all have stuff going on. This is a job. Let's put it in the box it belongs in. It's a job. This isn't your health. This isn't cancer. This is a job. This isn't your family. We live in the United States of America. We don't live in Syria. We don't live in these incredibly war-driven, difficult places where women that wear what we want to wear and say what we want to say and live with who we want to live with. Are you kidding? We have to think about all the gifts that we have to be grateful for. It's a job. I told you, if I have to wait tables, I will wait tables. I'm never going to go hungry. I'm a really good waitress. So everybody get over it and get back on a seat.
You ready for the, Richard?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes. You will take your glasses off your head, Mr. Fruity. Ageism is alive and well and living in New York. And I need them as well, which is why Cheryl's reading my questions, because otherwise I would have to read them like this, or put my glasses on, because when I put them up here, I can't read them all that well, because my eyes are going. But I'm not going to let anyone know, and neither are you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Thank you very
welcome.
much. Can I put them in the front of my shirt?
No? You may hide them.
Hide them, okay. I work in marketing, and I've been contacted by recruiters, about 6 recruiters for 6 different contract jobs, and that's my target, contracting
Love it.
jobs.
Love it.
Right, but I feel like I asked them where did they get my resume, and they're not clear about where they're getting it. And I feel like they're just picking apples off of a tree and they're throwing them back at these companies. Now, I have enough information about these companies now, because I did research before I responded, and I followed up with these recruiters, and it's silence, and I'm thinking, why don't I just call these companies on my own and just express an interest in talking with them, like an informational meeting,
Nothing to lose.
and that wouldn't be a violation of anything?
No, you haven't signed anything. They don't work for you. They work for themselves. They're called contingency headhunters. And what they do typically is they go through LinkedIn and they put in some keywords, which is why you must have a beautiful LinkedIn profile, more important than a resume. And they put a couple key things in, and some people populate. And there's a special software for the recruiters, actually. And it populates, and Foodie comes up, and they're like, oh, this dude looks good. And they reach out because you match something that a couple of companies are thinking about. Oftentimes, it's not formulated. So they don't have a mandate, there's no job spec, and it hasn't really been formulated. They have good conversations with these folks, and they have relationships. Most definitely. It's not like it's pie in the sky. They do have relationships. There's something going on, but oftentimes it's not solidified. And if they bring a name in and they show it in, what happens often is they show it in, they go, hey, I got this Foodie dude, what do you think? And they say, oh, he's interesting, we're going to think about it. Or they don't think about it, or they decide to change it, or they don't do a rag, or lots of things. The person leaves, there's just a whole incredible array of things that could happen. It's not that it's not there, it's that nothing's happening with it. Because if there's anything happening with it, the way that person gets paid is to place you inside that firm. So the only thing I can think about is if they've shown you in, here's the little bit of a little iffy kind of a thing I want you to think about. So I'm the recruiter. I talk to you. I say, you know, I've got Estee Lauder. They're looking for a marketing dude. I think you fit beautifully. I'm going to send you a resume and see what they think. I send it in. They're like, Charlotte, we don't know. We're thinking about it. We'll get back to you in June. And I don't have the courtesy to go back to you and say, hey, Richard, they got back to me. They're not going to get back to us until June. Because I actually want to keep you a little warm. So you contact Estee Lauder. The resume's in there, in the HRIS system, which everybody has, with Lee on it. So that if they ping you, they have to pay Lee because I brought you in. You go in on your own, and they say, hey, Foodie, did Charlotte Lee already submit your resume? And you must say, yes, but I pinged her 7 times, and she never responded to me. So I thought I could reach out to you directly without doing anything inappropriate. Have I misstepped? And they say, oh no, well if you pinged her 7 times and she didn't have the courtesy to write back to you, that's good to know, and that's actually good feedback for us.
Great. Thank you very much.
The key in all of this is transparency. When people find you not transparent, they immediately pull back, and then you're dead. Because they actually mark your resume in their system with a DNH of do not hire. And it's attributed, it'll say, you know, DNH Charlotte Lee, and then they'll call me and say, hey, how come we can't hire this Foodie guy? And I say, well, this really queer thing happened that was really not cricket, and I just don't feel comfortable with him. Can't have that. And the world is small, and it's contracting. You know, I walk through Grand Central, I'm like, hello, good morning. And it's bizarro. It's like, why do I know 43 people in Grand Central? This is strange. No, really, it's not like I'm a center of influence. I'm a coach. I'm not kidding. People walk through Grand Central to make fun of me because they're like, are we walking through without you saying hello to 14 people? So, sure shoot, I'm walking down yesterday morning and a client who landed is going up the escalator. And he wasn't mine, and I always give people, when they're with someone else, a chance not to say hello to me because, you know, maybe I always say to people, just say you know me from the business. You don't have to say she's a coach and an analyst. You could just say, you know, she's someone I know from the business. But I give people a chance not to say hello in case they don't want to. I'm okay with that. And he's like, Charlotte! I was like, hey! So it was, you know, it's wonderful. It makes my day. But the world is small. So the whole, you know, they won't find out. We're all parents, okay? I know the lamp is broken, and I know it didn't get broken by itself. One of you 2 little brats in this house broke the lamp. So somebody fess up. So it's the same thing for all of you. I don't want you to think you're being clandestine or slick, because you don't want to come across as anything but fully transparent, fully approachable, fully open on everything. The more closed you look, the more they pull back, because it makes them nervous.
Thanks.
Pleasure. Sorry, very long answer for you.
No, that was great. Oh, do we have one more? Other ones with more?
What do you recommend to your clients when it comes a little bit to the emotional, right? I mean, I think we all have our days when we are rah, optimistic, today is the day, and the next day you don't want to get out of bed kind of thing. What do you recommend to people to do?
I'm not kidding. Stay in bed. Here's the thing that happens. You think nobody notices. And some of us, my mother was clairvoyant, and I'm highly intuitive. I test out on intuition. I can feel it across the room, in this room, for all of you, who's doing well and who's not. And there are others like me in the marketplace that can feel it, and we don't like it, and we don't want it. And it makes us nervous because I worry about your performance on the job. And if I have to worry about your performance on the job, I won't give it to you because I can't worry about you. I can hardly get my job done. I can't worry about hiring someone that I have to babysit. So I recommend everybody take some mental health time, that you hug your families, that you take care of yourself, that you go to the gym so you've got your endorphins going, that you get the weight off, that you're at the fighting weight you should be and not carrying around extra weight, which is the #1 health problem in the world, mostly in the United States, that you are a lean, mean fight machine and that everything about you glows and has a smile on your face, hair cut the way you want to be, game on. You have got to be your best. And if you're not, I recommend don't call, don't make meetings, and don't send emails because people can sense it and they're like, wonder what happened to him. And we can't have that because that's what they remember. That becomes your brand. I have people who say, oh my God, she's such a Debbie Downer, don't call her. OMG, we can't have that. We can't have that. I want people to know that when they call me, no matter what's happening, I'm going to be up. And I'm going to be positive, and I'm with you, and I'm your advocate, no matter what. Even when I don't feel it, because I'm on 3 hours of sleep. I don't care. We have to fake it, and if you're not going to fake it, pull back. Pull back from the market because the market might get a sense. And you think they don't. Oh, I can hide it. None of you can hide it. Trust me, you can't. You can't. I know you think you can, but you can't. So don't do it. Stay home. Go away. Somebody said, oh, I'm not going on my vacation. It's already paid for. Is somebody nuts? Even if it's not paid for. Live a life. Live your life. This is a job. It's transient. You'll get a job. This is just a moment. It's going to pass. Now, you can expedite it. You can help it. You can help it by not getting your head stuck in what this thing has to look like and making sure you're coming across as flexible, not stuck in your old ways or your old job. But it's got to be with a smile, and it's got to be with the courage and that it needs. And nothing's harder than this. I always tell people, nothing's harder than this. I pushed 2 babies out with no drugs. Nothing's harder than this. Trust me. I've done both, the baby thing and this. This was harder.
I'm gonna go back and tell my wife that.
Not if you want to still live in your house, you should. I don't tell my husband that. But you know what, he would agree with me, I think. But it was, it's, you know, the most important thing I think are relationships. As you see, this is the business I'm in. It's my lowest paying job I've ever had and my most fulfilling because that's the one thing I needed, which was lots of people and every day being a different day. And everybody's different about what they can do. It just is. If you can get certified in something, get certified. Everyone's looking for credentials. So get some credentials going.
Great. We're on to the next question.
I'm ready.
Again, a good segue into the ageism topic. So many of us are beyond 40 and even 50s and 60s.
Come
are
here a
few
second.
young
I
people
have to
here.
interrupt you.
Yeah.
I just love her and I love this top. Stand up.
Oh,
Turn
yes.
around.
That's great.
Turn around. Does everybody see this? With the pink t-shirt underneath?
I love it.
Do I have to put the Pharrell song on?
Because I'm happy. I'll sing. So we can all, I'm sorry to embarrass you. So we can all, she's turning pink. We can all, no, it's a segue. Look, we can all laugh about that, but you know what? Everybody laughed about it. Everybody smiled. You all got it. So you all think this doesn't matter. It's the only thing that matters. There are 2 things that matter. Aptitude and attitude. And there are people in this space focused on aptitude. And you will be out for a very, very long time. Because you are focused on your aptitude and no one's going to hire you for your aptitude. There are 200,000 people that go through the LHH doors every year, and every one of them is smart and lovely and qualified and fabulous. Fabulous with great aptitude. Only certain people have attitude. Watch that you've got the right attitude. They don't need you for your aptitude. They've got 150,000 people they can pick with great aptitudes. Degrees, Ivy League, best firms, best experience, best this, best that. Stop focusing on your aptitude. Focus on your attitude, because that's what's going to differentiate you in the market, not your aptitude. Everybody thinks like they're the best investor, they're the best PM guy, they're the best this, they're the best marketer. I'm thinking to myself as I'm listening to these people talk, thinking, I'll just sit here quietly and nod and let them go on their merry way. But I really shouldn't do that. I should tell you out loud, you're barking up the wrong tree. Focus on the way you look. Focus on the way you sound. Focus on the way you relate to others. Focus on whether they like you or not. The only common thread in hiring, now and always, is and will be that they like you. Focus on your likability factor.
Charlotte, one more about being
great.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Pass the Susan.
She doesn't need a defense. She's the one with the happy top on. I should be the one with the happy top on. Anyway,
How does one deal with the question,
Yes,
aren't you
ageism.
overqualified?
Yes, and the answer is, I do think I'm very well qualified for this role. It's perfect for me. It's exactly what I did, and I'd love to do it for you. And by hiring me for that, not only do you get this, this, and this, I think I could also help you build a bench. I think I could really help in a sort of chief of staff role. I've done that role before, and I'd love to do that. You're growing. I'd love to work with the marketing people on some of the collateral. I would come up with the Charlotte Plus. So most of the stuff I go for, I'm overqualified for, and I'm certainly too old for. So I do the whole, yes, you're right, and I don't say what is not ever appropriate for anyone ever to say at all, period, ever, in any meeting, period, at all, is no. Do not bump up against people. You are seen as a negative Nancy. Don't bump up against people and say no. So when somebody says, you're overqualified, I think you're a little, I said, yes, you're absolutely right. I can crush this job. I am quite qualified to do this job. But in addition to do this job, I would do this, I would do that, I'd love to do this, I'd love to do that. And if I had the opportunity, I hope you'd give me the opportunity to, of course, crush this job. We're focused on this role, but down the road, potentially get to do some other things here on the platform where I think I could add value and would like to. You must ask for the order. You must admit that you are old and overqualified and still ask for the job. And then give them an idea of what else they're going to get for the same amount of money that they're paying some 39-year-old. That's what I would do.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm being interviewed by people who are younger than my kids, and my kids are 29, are almost 30 and 33. And so I've been using It's Pay It Forward. I mean, when I was that age, I was being taught by people my age now.
Yes.
It just sails over too many people's heads.
Yes.
How are millennials or people on the top end of them, are they just that, not paying attention?
It doesn't always resonate. I agree with you. I was interviewing with this gentleman, and I said to him, I got to be honest with you, this jacket's older than you. I could do your job, your boss's job, and your boss's boss's job. Here's the reason why this job is interesting. And I just said that like that. Because that's what he's thinking. Yeah. Holy crap, look at this woman. She's older than my boss's boss. Like, you know, I know that's what they're thinking. Yeah. And that's okay. I actually own that stuff because it's in the room.
Right.
It's in the room. So, I'm not, my attitude is I'm not getting it anyway. So I'm all out. I'm all in on this stuff because what do we got to lose? I'm married. I'm not looking to marry the guy. What do we got to lose? I keep seeing these people like, well, I'm thinking, it's going to rain, you're going to get wet. Who cares? What is this angst around these meetings that you give them so much power over you? It's weird. I don't get it. I just don't. And part of it's maybe I'm just empowered, and I have always been empowered by my family, by my mom, by my dad, by my sisters, brothers, husband. I don't know, but I don't feel victimized, and I never have. And so I say out loud, when that doesn't work, you have to come up with other streams, and that often pay it forward doesn't work. Right. So what I have used is I said, look, I'm at a stage in my career where I've paid the mortgage off, the kids are gone, and I'm looking to stay challenging in an environment that is challenging, rewarding, and fun. That's what I say. And it sells. People say, oh. I said, look, if I had to worry about the mortgage, I wouldn't be sitting here talking about this job. Don't take it the wrong way. But I wouldn't be. I don't have to pay the mortgage because I paid off my house. My kids are all gone. I have a 31-year-old and a 34-year-old. You can call me Grandma Charlotte. And I'm really proud of it. I'm really pleased because nothing was given to me. I worked for it all myself. I got it all myself. I waitressed to get through college. I did it by myself. I now am lucky enough to say, at this stage of my life, I don't have to make what I made before. I made it. I socked it away. I'm in great shape. I'm looking to do something that is challenging, rewarding, and fun. This thing you have here is challenging, rewarding, and fun, and I'd like to do it. What do you say? That's what I would say. Ask for the order.
Thank you.
Questions? Yes, ma'am. Hi, how are you? I'm great, thanks. Nice to see you.
So it's interesting. In my former role, now I'm consulting.
Okay, good.
Which is great, but I've gone for some staff jobs, and in my former role, I was director of a department at Random House. So I've gone for other jobs as just a regular producer, because that's my world, and I've sat across someone who's looked at me straight in the face and said, you know what, I feel like you could do my job. And, I looked back to her and said, you know what, I think we would be a great team.
Lovely.
It doesn't work, though, necessarily, when you know you're looking at someone who feels maybe, I don't know.
So two things. You don't know it's not working. You don't know.
Okay.
You don't know. You can't, look, we can't figure out what everybody else is thinking about. All we can do is right here. Your delivery was perfect and sounds authentic. I hear things that don't sound authentic and I don't believe them. I believe you. I do. And I think they do too. So you don't know it's not working. That's one. So give yourself, one, credit for doing it, and two, don't believe that it's not working. That's not necessarily true. Here's one thing I have that I would add. When somebody says, gosh, I feel like you could do my job, I don't want to do your job. I want you to kill that. You're not killing it, and I need you to kill it. I need you to say out loud. Because the reality is, if I want your job, I'd have it already. That's the investment banker in me. Yeah. Once a banker, always a banker. But the reality is I don't do that anymore. What I say is, I don't want your job. I feel really pleased to be working with someone at your level, and I think we're going to learn from each other. This is a partnership. I don't want your job, and I don't want you looking over your shoulder thinking I'm nipping at your heels. That's not what I want. If that's how you feel, it was really nice meeting you, and let me go. And you know what people do? They say, sit down. I'm ready to leave. I don't want you to think I'm nipping at your heels, because I'm very serious. If I wanted that job, I'd go for it. I'd tell the person, I'm going to crush you. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm trying to partner with you, and I think we can learn from each other. I come from this background, you come from that background. We're going to approach these things differently. We're moving into a digital market. You know more about digital than I do. I'm hoping I can help you about customer acquisition, which I know a little bit about. You need to put some legs on that. There's no legs on that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you.
Get legs on that thing. What else can I do to help? Anybody else can answer any other questions or get some of the... Hi, Keith! How are you?
Wonderful. Thanks for asking. The process, you're deep into an interview, 3 or 4, there's that awkward radio silence on their side, send a dead mouse article, something compelling, not quite getting that communication as one would want. It's their time, I get that. What's the timetable of keep pinging them?
So I have a very strong feeling that my number one tip in the world is follow-up. If I had a nickel for every time I said to somebody, oh, you know, I know somebody at so-and-so, you should ping me and I'll connect you, and they don't do it. Like, ooh, kind of strange. So I love that you're asking about follow-up, because when people ask me what's your number one tip, my number one tip is follow-up. So it's spot on. I don't want us to come across like stalkers, but I do want it to look like you're hungry. I'm a sales guy, you're in sales. You're all in sales and marketing. Sales and marketing us, but you're in sales and marketing. So what I would do is typically in the meetings, so I meet with 2 or 3 people, and in each of those meetings I try to feel out where they are. Have they got 12 people they're seeing? Have they met 4 of them? Is next week everyone going to be out because it was President's Week? I try to have a sense of what I think the rhythm of the search is going to look like. And then I say, gosh, I'd love to follow up with you, Mary. Would it be possible to circle back in a couple weeks? Is that, yeah, absolutely. Would you prefer phone or email? You know, can you email me? I can't take the phone. Absolutely, I'll email you. Thanks very much for giving me that. I don't want to come across like a stalker, but I do want to follow up because this is my number one thing I'm focused on. Because it kind of puts their feet to the fire. But you have to set it up in the meeting. That's one, if you can. If you cannot, you obviously send the thank you notes, and maybe we send 4, and 1 person writes back. If none writes back, then you're writing crappy notes and you need to rethink that. You should be getting 1 out of 4, you should get something back. Not every one of them, but 1 out of 4. So this person writes back and says, hey, nice meeting you, Keith, too. It's the HR person. We're seeing 4 more people next week. And, you know, I don't know, they give you some, oh, thanks so much for telling me that, Charlotte. I so appreciate it. It's my number one thing I'm focused on. Please let me know if there's anything additional I can provide. Thanks and best regards, Keith. Perfect. 2 weeks go by. That HR person that pinged you, I say, hey, Susie, was wondering whether you got to see those 4 people or schedule them. I was just, just curious as to know if there was anything additional that I could provide. Something low key, no respondo. I find something, so say I'm interviewing at Scotiabank. I go through and I figure out what's going on at Scotia, what's going on with the regulators, what's happened in Canada, where's the dollar, who have they bought lately, what changes have they made internally. I figure out some way, my dead mouse, to go back in to every single one of the people that I met with 4, once. Now HR I just hit up, so I can't go back to HR, I got 3 others. I go to the first week and I say, hey Dennis, don't know if you saw this thing in The Economist about the Canadian dollar. Hope all is well. Look forward to reconnecting. Best regards, Keith. Next week, get the next person. Send something to the next person. 3rd week, send something to the next person. 4th person, I get back to go to HR. That's now 7 touches. Then I resort to my favorite tool, which everyone in the room is going to gasp, the telephone. And typically I would pick up HR because they're the one that set up my meetings, but not necessarily. If someone had given me their card, and say, by the way, if you have any other questions, ping me. I'd send an email and say, hey, John, you know what, I thought a couple of stuff, and I'd love 10 minutes. Could you spare 10 minutes one day this week or next? And then he says, yeah, call me Thursday at 3. And Thursday at 3, I pick up the phone and I have 3 questions. None of which has to do with did I get this job. None. They will be strategic questions about the business. That's how I'd follow up. Anything else that I could do to be helpful? Yes, I'm.
Pass it over there.
I'm great. How are you? Nice to see you. So everybody can hear.
How do you feel about on your
Oh, you hit the switch.
profile?
Turn the switch on. There you go. Oh, turn the switch.
How do you feel about on your LinkedIn profile saying you're in search? Saying you're in search mode? No, because it's been recommended.
Not by me.
Okay.
Now look, there are as many ways to do this search as there are people in the world. I've been asked to give my advice. This is my advice. I don't want you to look desperate. It's very important how you portray yourself. And I want you to portray yourself like a lean, mean fight machine who's got great stuff in here to offer some lucky person who hires you, either consulting or full-time. I would not put desperately seeking Susan for everyone in the world to see. I just think it doesn't send the right message on the one thing I'm focused on, which is your positioning. How you brand yourself and how people see you is what I care about. And so I don't want that kind of positioning. I would not say, looking for a job, seeking new opportunities. I see it all the time. I don't even link into those people because I assume they're linking into me because they want me to help them, and I'm not going to because they're desperate. And desperate people do desperate things. And we've seen how that movie turns out, and it's not a pretty ending. The desperate thing, and look, I'm not saying I didn't feel desperate when I was out, and it wasn't like I was going hungry, but I must say I was enormously upset. But I don't want you to come across that way. Okay. Yes?
So, following up on that last piece that mentioned LinkedIn.
You have to press the button.
Push it.
I just have to turn it on. Have you noticed since I left LHH last time, I don't know, a year and a half ago, any additional benefits from having a premium type account or not?
The short answer is no, John. Quite frankly, it's not really worth it. I would get the 30 days free and play. This is what I did. I get the 30 days and I played around with it. Like, what else can I get? And the thing that happened, and I did it with a gentleman who's a client now, sits outside my office in what they call prime real estate, mostly because if you sit right outside my office, I spend most of the time screaming at you and checking on what you're doing. But be that as it may, he chooses to sit there, and he spent the whole time, which is why I had to kick him off, looking to see who's looking at him. And online surfing, and what jobs are on there, and who moved, and what other people are doing, and who didn't accept my LinkedIn, and it was a waste of time.
So LinkedIn is Facebook.
It's becoming, for us grown-ups, a little bit of Facebook. Don't do it. You should be spending 10 to 15% of your time online, and the rest you should be using your feet to pound the pavement and meet new people, mostly strangers. And that isn't going to happen on LinkedIn. So the very idea that you use a premium is okay with me. I don't have any problem with it. There's no problem with it. But you got to know it's a waste of time because there's no job on LinkedIn, right? Okay. As long as you know you're wasting your time with something where there's no job, then you must spend your time as you wish. My advice is not to spend more time online than necessary, and about 10 to 15% is necessary. Check your email, do your research, find out news from the companies you're interested in, all that kind of good stuff, but that is not all day. That's not all day. And he was spending, and when people ping you to look at you, I don't want you pinging them back because you're punishing them for looking at you. Don't do that. You're outing them and embarrassing them. Why would you do that? That's what he was doing. I finally went out and said, what are you doing? He said, well, John so-and-so looked at me from so-and-so, and he's a hiring manager. Don't do that. Your job is to make people feel good about you, to be pleased that they know you, not to be embarrassed by you, not to be outed by you. Don't do that. The most important thing is how people feel when they see you, and that's your brand. So please don't punish people for looking at your profile. I have people looking at my profile all the time or linking it to me, and I don't punish them. I don't accept it, but I don't chase them down either. It's just not nice. So we want to watch that. Yes?
So,
In line with that, how about reaching out to strangers on LinkedIn? Is that something? No.
No. No. I would not reach out to strangers. It's cold calling. And in the creepy, stalker, desperate category, I think it's odd, and I wouldn't do it. I just don't think it says the right thing about you. And I want the right thing to be said about you. And I think it's important for us to come across as confident and competent, connected people. And if we're not connected to that person, we can see if someone else can connect us. And I think you should talk to people you haven't talked to in 15 years. I have people reach out to me that I haven't 35 years. Hey, we were kidded together. I mean, my companies are all gone, the ones I worked for, but they were great companies in their day. And I had a guy reach out to me, he's like, I don't know if you remember me. And I was like, of course I remember you. Holy crap. You know, I was with you at 3 o'clock in the morning, redlining a prospectus. Yes, of course I remember you. I want to kill you, too. He left early, but his wife was pregnant, so he got to go home. So, but of course I remembered him. It was actually quite nice for him to reach out to me, and I met with him, and he's, you know, he's in a job, and he's unhappy, and he wanted to kind of redo himself, and he saw that I had redone myself. I thought it was great. I don't think that's creepy. I mean, I had to think about it for a second, who he was. Like, the name sort of triggered. And then I looked him up on LinkedIn, and he had his picture up. If you don't have a picture up, I don't link into you anyway. I don't link into people without photos. But, you know, I looked at it, I was like, oh, Tom, now I remember him. I thought, wow, he looks old. So of course, I'm still, 24, and I'm looking at this guy thinking, holy crap. So we did a little bit of a makeover. I'm famous for my makeovers. But, the ageism thing is a problem, and so you do need to fight it. I always tease people that I'm almost 60, but it's the truth, and most people don't take me for, almost 60, and that's how I'm going to keep it, because I want to work for a long time, and I don't think they're hiring 60-year-olds the way they are in other places. So I'm just going to fight it. Yes, sir. I also wanted to, I'm sorry, Richard, I have a part. So I wrote a book about job search, and because Cheryl and Richard made this happen, there is one for them to give out to as they wish, and then the other person is happy.
Oh, great.
So this one's for you, Richard, and it is signed. Not that it's going to make you any money, but it's 5 stars, my son told me on Amazon.
That's great. Is this on, Jen? Yes.
It is now.
So a common question that comes up every week is, so several months ago, I was networking with all of my contacts, and I had a great story to tell. I had some interviews, some really good experiences, and now it's 4 or 5 months later, and I don't really have any stories to tell, but I know I need to contact my network again, and I feel, I don't really know what to say or do because I don't really have a story to tell, and I don't want to just call up and say, hi, how you doing? So how can that be handled best to get back in?
So I have 4 ideas around that. So one is my first idea, which is to lie. And what I would say is, been a busy couple of months, wanted to catch up with you. I've got a bunch of stuff to update you on. Got really close on 2 things, but they picked the other. I was the bridesmaid. But been busy and blah, 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 blah. I just wanted to catch up. That's one. It's called lying, but you have to lie. 2, I would come up with something. While you're out, and while I was out, I did a bunch of stuff. I started building houses with Habitat for Humanity. I got certified as an ESOL teacher. I volunteered. I'm half Chinese. I volunteered with a Chinese organization. I mean, you need to do something with your time. You can't just be running around telling people you're job searching, especially if it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 months. What are you doing? What are you doing? So you need to really look at yourself and say, okay, time to do something else. And I don't care if you can sell for free. I don't care if you work at a soup kitchen 1 Saturday a month. I really don't care if you're a mentor to a 5th grader once a month. You need to step it up and have something to talk about, either joining a board, something volunteer. So that's the second thing. So my first one was lie, in case you missed that one. My second one was to do something, to have something to talk about. The third thing that I would do is I'd have my marketing plan, and I would make sure that I had new companies on there, and I had like a little, I don't know how to do this because I'm challenged, I'd have like a little check mark next to the ones that I have entree, so I have no check marks next to some, and be able to meet and say, so these are all the places since we last met, these are all the places where I've had discussions. These are the ones where I'm less robust and would love your help.
Great, thank you.
that's because you're a gentleman. We're just going to have to spin stuff a little bit. You know, we just have to spin. We can't say I've been sitting here waiting for you to call me for the last 4 months. And the other thing I was surprised was when I chatted with somebody this morning, I said, well, when you met, I sort of unraveled some of his meetings. Because some of the meetings go well and some of the meetings, you know, don't go well. And I get that. Some of you build great rapport and you really like them and they really like you and you're great. And sometimes it just doesn't click. It's okay. But what I didn't find is two things not happening that I was very surprised about. One is that they didn't ask for help, that they didn't have a marketing plan, that they had a good meeting. Everybody was like a big love fest. I love you, Brooke, you love me. We were all great, but nothing happened. Well, that's because you didn't ask. That's why it didn't happen. I know if I call you and I say, I need you to do this for me, that he'll do it for me. I know David's going to do it for me, but I have to ask. He's not out of the blue going to call me and say, hey, Charlotte, do you need me to do something for you? That's not his job. That's your job. So one, have an ask that is doable by the other person. I mean, to me, it's just about asking. And two, make sure you say, and oh, by the way, is there anything that I can do for you? Because everybody feels like when they're out of work, there's nothing they can do for you. You know what? Not everybody's looking for a job. You can do a lot of things for other people. A lot of things. I had a gentleman say, well, what else could I do? And when I finally got down to having a bunch of different, I actually had to go through what it is he was going to offer. It turns out he's an amazing coach and knows like everything about 4 sports that I ever heard, you know, but somebody is going to care about it. And it turns out his wife works for some tennis thing and can get tickets to every tennis thing in the history of humanity. Right. I'm on it. I'm like, oh, great. I would like tickets to the thing on March 3rd at the thing at BMP, and I'll give you 3 coaching for free. And I would have done it for free anyway without the tennis. I just liked him. Don't be ridiculous. There's something we all have to offer. Step it up and figure out what it is and offer it. Even if you say to someone, God, Liz, I'd love to be helpful to you. Is there anything you can think of that would be helpful? I had a guy talk about a vacation he was taking, and I had just gone to the same place. I said, I know 2 good restaurants. Now that I've made that connection with him, and I gave him those 2 restaurants, he said, you did the thing I needed to do the most, Charlotte. And I said, oh, what was that? He said, make my wife still speak to me.
I love it.
Right.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't know about you, but if you call my husband, he'll say the best way to get to him, here's the gatekeeper. So at the end of the day, helping someone that they love helps them. And it was restaurants in Hawaii. You can't make this up. So at the end of the day, don't think you don't have something to offer to someone. You must ask. And you must be creative about trying to come up with something. And they'll help you on the job, and you'll help them on something else. I helped somebody else on a book that I thought's a really good book. The best book out there to read on networking is Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. Everybody's going to write it down. I told Keith when I met him that I have sold thousands of his books. There are 2 books that are great, mine and his. And his is off the charts. Really, I'm kidding about mine, but his is really, really off the charts. I told him, when I read yours, I knew you were the real deal. I met him. He's the real guy.
Last name again?
Oh, look, well done, young man. Turn around.
He has the book from the library.
It is a great book. And here's the thing, most people won't do it. What I'm asking you to do is to do it. Nothing's worse than having a conversation with yourself and not doing it. Please do it. I mean, honestly.
I'll send it to Richard.
Oh, how sweet. Thank you. I would prefer you read the whole book. Just me.
I wasn't that good a student.
But thank you, Marty. But at the end of the day, you can get it at the library. Nobody needs to buy it. But it's a really good book. And part of the thing, I do see people, they think they know what the job search looked like and they've got it all going. If it's gone on for more than 6 months, you got to know that what you've been doing isn't working and it's time to switch it up. So in my opinion, switch it up. Stop thinking you know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. You don't do this for a living. I do this for a living. Don't act like you know what it's doing. You wouldn't be sitting here listening to me if you knew what you were doing. You wouldn't. Because you know what to do. So trust me, switch it up. Do stuff you would never, ever do. 1. 2, hang out with positive people. 3, have a metric. And 4, take on consulting ASAP. Consulting ASAP. Last question. I got to get back to the
Can I
audience.
ask one?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you can.
No.
We're going to
Go
have 2
ahead.
questions.
Go ahead.
One from you and one from you.
Go ahead.
Yes, Liz.
It's not on.
This is what I do for a living. You do know that.
sweet. I just want to give a shout out to Sandra Gutierrez, who put me on to one of her contacts, and I have an informational interview in March at the Public Theater, and I am extremely excited about it. And the second thing is a question. You're saying go out and do things. Well, the one job I've been approved to do is with Uber. Is that okay to talk about?
Sorry.
Uber, the driving service.
Inside a cab?
Yes.
No.
Don't talk about it.
No. You can waitress with me. We'll be fine. I'll back you up. You're not doing that, and you're not talking about that. It's below your pay grade. And I don't want anyone to be below your pay grade. I can spin circles around people on what I can spin. I can't spin that. And that guy who runs that company is not someone I want you. You know, when you go to bed with fleas, what they say. And I don't want you going to bed with anyone with fleas. It will touch your brand and taint it. And I cannot have what is a stellar brand be sullied by that group. I'm being so poised about it. I think I'm being very poised.
Yes, you are.
Liz, I care about you. Don't you dare.
I'm just going to start tomorrow.
Oh, here's the other thing. You heard my first piece of advice, right? Lie. So you can lie, and if anybody says what you're doing, you could be doing some consulting, but you may not tell people you're driving for Uber. So you can lie, really. I do it all the time. Like, does that dress look good? You look great. They're already out. They're standing in my doorway. What am I going to say to this woman? I said, you look like $1 million. She's on her way to the interview. Is it nice? Is it necessary? What was I going to say? I said, you look like $1 million. Go get them. And as she walked away, everybody stood up and went. And I went. She's on her way.
She get the job.
She's on her way. So, look, is it nice? Is it necessary? Of course we're going to think about that. Again, I've told people, if you're on peanut butter and jelly and this is what we got to do, I'm going to wait tables, but I'm not going to tell anybody I'm waiting tables. I'm going to tell people I'm coaching. And I'm going to be doing it pro bono, which is why I have to wait tables, and I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm going to tell them Cheryl's my client and you're my client, and you're going to call and you're going to tell them that I am your coach. And you're not going to tell them that you haven't given me a nickel and that I'm waiting tables at Pershing Square. You're not. You're not going to out me. I lie all the time. You look great. You look like $1 million. Literally, people stood around and said, oh my gosh, Charlotte, you just lied to that woman. I said, yeah, and I'm going to do it all day. You're on your way to an interview. Come on. When people come in and say, can I wear this? I say, what are you, joking? No, you knucklehead. But not when... Last question for Cheryl, yes.
Okay, so I think I can talk for a lot of us, or some of us here, that I did a little bit of consulting recently, and I think it's because I've been now close to a year, it's probably time to change it up. So how does one kind of do that? What's your best practices?
Yes. Yeah. The best way to get consulting is to talk to people who do it. So I introduced Cheryl to someone because I knew that he had done consulting. So I talked to every single man, woman, child I know, and I say, I'm not worried about the job. We're all worried about the job. I'm not worried about the job. I just want to get back in a seat to do something worthwhile. And I'm happy for it to be consulting. And I go back to every single person. You know, I have people say they activated their network. So I sat with a client yesterday who told me he had activated his network, and I had him pull it up, and I picked S, and I pulled up S, and a bunch of names dropped down. And I said, did you talk to Samantha? Stephen? And I went through these names on the thing, and not one on the first page, that's not true, one, had he spoken to. Now, you know how many people come up when you put S into your LinkedIn, and how many people come up? A bunch. Don't tell me you activated your network. You didn't activate your network. Most people in the room haven't activated their network. There are some that have done a decent job, but there are many, many, many that have not activated their network. So one, I would activate my network. Two, I would let people know I'm dying to do some consulting in any way, shape, or form that uses my brain, and I'd love to come in and talk with them about it. Three, before I got those meetings set up, I'd have a sense of what it is I'm going to do. You have to come up with your own assignment. When I ran my own consulting firm from 1998 to 2007, I never had anybody say, hey, we got this job for you, come in. I had to actually scope out through meetings what was going well and what wasn't going well, and then come up with my assignment, and then go in and try to sell the assignment. And invariably, people would be like, Charlotte, that's like a $50,000 assignment. We'll have you do this thing. And I would get it to be this. So at the end of the day, you're the ones that have to come up. What are you doing for these people? Are you sitting here waiting for a job? Oh. Good luck with that strategy. I think you need to come up with what is your value added. What are you going to do for them? Don't ask what your country's going to do for you. What are you going to do for these people? What are the 4 things you're going to do for these companies? What are the 4 things you could do that would move their needle? And go talk to every man, woman, and child you know and say you'd love to do one of these 4 things for them. You don't care if it's a job. You're looking to do it as a consulting assignment so they can have a try and buy. And see if they like you. And see if you do a great job. And if you do, maybe it will convert and maybe it won't. I have a guy who's been at UBS for 2.5 years. They're converting him at half the rate he has consulting. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to keep him as a consultant. That whole job he was dying to have, he can now have it at this level. So we're going to tell them, no thanks. We'll just stay at UBS and consult. So watch what you wish for. Because the jobs, 1, they're all transient. 2, you won't retire from it. 3, they're assignment and project-based anyway. 4, they're at lower levels. And 5, trust me when I tell you, leadership's going to change. So stop worrying about the job. Get back to work. Come up with what you're going to do for these people and go tell them that you'll do it for them on an hourly basis and that you're quite happy to do it a couple days a week. Would that be possible?
Thank you, Charlotte.
You're welcome. Great to see everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.